I don't need to get paid right away, but I can't have you back out. That's the only thing. You're paying whether it falls apart and is useless or whatever.
It's all good.
Okay, so you're taking it?
Taking it.
110?
110.
All right, congratulations.
A $110,000 deal for a 21-year-old rock truck seems insane, but that's exactly what Kevin Beets paid Parker Schnabel. While the world saw a rookie miner buying used gear, something much bigger was happening behind the scenes. Parker wasn't just selling equipment. He was selling his only way out of a financial nightmare that was closing in on him fast.
We're gonna come up short on the gold front on a season where we've got a huge amount of bills.
So what do you want to do to try and fix the problem?
I think that we should try to get something else opened up.
We're about to reveal the hidden crisis that forced the Klondike's golden boy into a corner, and how his rival's son, Kevin, became the unlikely hero in a story you were never meant to see. One bad day from broke. In the unforgiving wilderness of the Yukon, perception is everything, and the perception of Parker Schnabel has always been one of unstoppable success. We see the mountains of gold, the massive crew, and the fleet of giant yellow machines. It looks like a money-printing machine that can never be shut down. But here's the thing about machines. They break down, and fixing them costs a fortune. Believe it or not, the bigger the operation, the more fragile it can be.
And now this thing's probably running at 20% over capacity and it's spilling everywhere. You just got to be patient with it. You got to work through it. And you know, patience is one thing I don't think Parker has much of.
Parker runs a colossal mining outfit, and the overhead costs are astronomical. We're talking about a daily fuel bill that could buy a new car, a payroll for dozens of experienced miners, and maintenance costs that easily run into the millions each season. An operation of that size doesn't run on gold bars. It runs on cold, hard cash flow. Now get this. Sources close to the operations hinted at a major, unforeseen disaster right before the season kicked into high gear. A critical piece of machinery, far bigger and more expensive than a simple rock truck, had suffered a catastrophic failure. Think of a wash plant's main conveyor system completely imploding, or the engine of his primary dozer, Big Red, giving up the ghost. A repair like that isn't a few $1,000s. It's a bill that can climb into the hundreds of thousands, and it needs to be paid now. It's a kind of problem that can halt the entire operation. No moving dirt means no gold, but the bills keep coming. Parker, for all his millions in gold, was supposedly facing a shocking liquidity crisis. He had assets, but he was out of ready cash. It's a classic business problem, but in the cutthroat world of mining, showing weakness is an invitation for disaster. He needed a significant cash injection, and he needed it without alerting his crew or his rivals that the king might be in trouble. It's funny when you think about it.
You've got a lot more waste in here than we bargained for, huh? I bet there's probably 5 feet in here at least of waste.
Because some areas down here I've run into like 8 feet of that big coarse rock, right?
Yeah, I don't know how long this is gonna take you. You got a lot of gravel.
At the exact same time Parker was allegedly scrambling to find cash, a new player was making his own desperate moves just a few miles away. Kevin Beets, son of the legendary Viking miner Tony Beets, was stepping out from his father's shadow to start his own mine. But his start was anything but glorious. He was armed with hand-me-down equipment from Tony, machines that were old, unreliable, and breaking down constantly. His dream of running a smooth operation was turning into a nightmare of busted hoses and failed diff locks. One of his rock trucks, a crucial piece for moving pay dirt, was already proving to be a piece of junk. Kevin was stuck. He couldn't afford the constant delays. He needed a reliable truck, and he needed it fast. He had no idea that his personal crisis was about to intersect with Parker's hidden one. Kevin's search for a functional rock truck was born of necessity. Parker's need to sell one was, according to the whispers, born of pure desperation. He was about to walk into a negotiation where he was the only one who didn't know the stakes. A deal of desperation. When Kevin Beets rolled up to Parker's claim, he thought he was just shopping for a used rock truck. In his mind, he was the one in a tough spot, a rookie trying to get a fair price from the most successful miner in the region. The reality, however, was a total reversal of that dynamic. Parker had a yard full of equipment, but he allegedly had his eyes on selling one specific truck, a 21-year-old Volvo A40, a solid machine in its day, but now old enough to legally buy a drink. Parker's asking price was firm, $110,000. No haggling, no negotiations. Buy it or don't buy it, I don't really care, he said. Now, on the surface, that sounds like classic Parker arrogance. It's the kind of power move you'd expect from a guy who knows he has what you need. But what if it wasn't arrogance at all? What if it was desperation disguised as confidence? Think about it. If you desperately need a specific amount of money, you can't afford to haggle. $105,000 wouldn't cut it. $100,000 was a no-go. He needed exactly $110,000, possibly to cover the exact cost of that secret catastrophic repair bill.
100?
And 10?
110. Go 105?
I don't haggle. Buy it or don't buy it, I don't really care.
His take-it-or-leave-it attitude wasn't a sales tactic. It was a reflection of his own dire situation. He didn't have wiggle room because his back was completely against the wall. Kevin, of course, saw none of this. He just saw a guy driving a hard bargain on an old piece of iron. Let's break down that number. $110,000 for a 21-year-old truck is steep. You can find newer models for not much more if you're willing to wait and ship them. But Kevin didn't have time. His operation was bleeding money with every hour of downtime. Parker knew this. But while Kevin thought Parker was exploiting his need for a truck, Parker was actually counting on it to solve his own, much larger problem. There's a certain genius to it, hiding your own weakness by pointing out someone else's. Kevin checked over the truck. It looked okay. The engine was clean, the major components seemed solid, but it was still a gamble. He was about to write a check that represented a massive chunk of his startup capital. For Kevin, this was a make-or-break investment. For Parker, it was allegedly the lifeline he'd been praying for. The tension in that moment was thicker than mud, but only one of them knew why. Kevin even tried to float the idea of a payment plan, asking to pay later in the season. Parker's response was telling. He agreed, but with a condition. I can't have you back out. You're paying whether it falls apart and is useless or whatever. This wasn't just a seller covering his bases. This was the sound of a man who needed to lock in that money, to be able to count on it as if it were already in his bank account. He needed the commitment just as much as the cash itself. The handshake was about to happen, but was Kevin securing his future or just funding his rivals? A handshake and two fates. With two words, taking it, the deal was done. Kevin Beets committed to paying Parker Schnabel $110,000. In that moment, a massive weight of risk shifted onto Kevin's shoulders. He was now the owner of an aging rock truck and the holder of a huge debt. That single purchase could determine the success of his entire season. If the truck ran smoothly, he could get to the gold and pay Parker off. If it turned into a lemon, it could sink his entire operation before it ever really started. It was an enormous gamble for a first-time mine boss. He walked away hoping the truck worked out, feeling the pressure of his decision. He had solved his immediate problem, but at a very high cost.
It's a little more than I wanted to pay, but it's here. And it's hard to negotiate from the position of, well, we really need something.
On the other side of that handshake stood Parker Schnabel. While Kevin felt the weight of the deal, Parker likely felt an incredible sense of relief. That $110,000 commitment was, if the rumors are true, the key that unlocked his own financial prison. It was the money he needed to fix his broken operation and get his own season back on track, all without anyone knowing how close he had come to the edge. He played his part perfectly. He appeared cool, confident, and even a little indifferent. He sold the truck, solved his problem, and maintained his image as the untouchable Klondike King. It was a masterful performance, hiding a desperate reality behind a curtain of business as usual. You gotta wonder if he felt even a little bit bad, seeing Kevin take on such a huge risk. This single transaction reveals so much about the brutal nature of the gold mining business. It's not just about digging dirt. It's a high-stakes chess match where cash flow is king and every dollar counts. Parker, by allegedly leveraging his reputation and Kevin's desperation, turned a moment of extreme vulnerability into a strategic win. He didn't just sell a truck, He potentially saved his empire with it. And he did it so smoothly that the person who saved him, Kevin, walked away thinking he was the one who had taken the big risk. It's a wild thought, but it shows the kind of mind games that go on behind the scenes, far away from the cameras. The new truck was immediately put to work on Kevin's cut, and for the time being, it worked. It allowed him to finally start moving dirt efficiently, giving him a shot at getting down to the pay layer. For Kevin, the truck represented hope and a chance at his 1,000-ounce goal. For Parker, that same truck represented a bullet dodged, a crisis averted. Two miners, two very different fates, tied together by one aging piece of yellow iron, and a deal where the true winner wasn't necessarily the one who got the gold.
Do you think there's some wiggle room in pricing with Parker?
He's kind of got all that bargaining power right now.
Yeah.
And he knows it.
The truck was running, but the story was far from over. What happens when the truth starts to surface? A simple deal or a secret rescue? So, here's where we have to step back and just think for a second. Is it really possible that Parker Schnabel, a guy who pulls in millions of dollars in gold season after season, could be brought to the brink by a single broken machine? Could he really be so strapped for cash that he had to pin his hopes on selling a 20-year-old truck to his rival's son? On one hand, it seems almost unbelievable. The show portrays these guys as giants, immune to the everyday financial problems that affect normal people. They weigh gold by the pound, not the gram. But then you have to consider the other side of it. What are we not seeing? The cost of running these mines is insane. Think about a crew of 15 to 20 people, all earning top dollar for 6 months. That's a payroll that runs into the hundreds of thousands. A single tire for one of those giant rock trucks can cost over $5,000. A blown engine? You're looking at $50,000, $100,000 easy. These guys aren't just mining for profit. They're in a constant race against their own expenses. A string of bad luck, a major breakdown, a patch of bad ground, a fuel price spike can turn a multi-million-dollar operation into a money pit overnight. So the idea of Parker having a cash flow problem isn't just possible, it's entirely plausible. The thing is, we're watching a television show. It's edited for maximum drama. Maybe the whole "I don't haggle" scene was just Parker being Parker. Maybe it was just a simple business deal between two guys who needed something from each other. Kevin needed a truck he could trust more than his dad's old junk, and Parker had one to sell. It could be that simple. But in the Yukon, things are rarely that simple. The pressures are immense, and a single decision can have ripple effects that last for an entire season. This deal, whether it was a desperate rescue or a simple transaction, highlights the razor's edge these miners operate on. We might never know the full story or the exact state of Parker's bank account on that day, but looking at the situation from this angle makes you see the show differently. You start to see the unspoken pressures behind every decision. You realize that for every ounce of gold they celebrate on screen, there are probably a dozen sleepless nights spent worrying about a balance sheet. The real story of the gold rush isn't just about finding gold, it's about surviving long enough to do it. So, was Kevin Beets an unlikely savior, or just the next guy in line to get a tough deal from Parker? Let us know your theory in the comments. And for more hidden stories from the goldfields, make sure you like and subscribe.